Hi, I'm Ben Jackson. Welcome to Blitzing with Your Defense. Hi, Andrew. See the nerds in the front row. Today we're going to talk about his background. We're going to talk about developing intelligence from your information that you already have. You're taking your information, actually developing it and receiving it, gathering it, and sharing it. Then we're going to talk about some active defense. The hip roared. Everyone likes about hacking defense, active defense now, and hack it back. And finally tying it all together into an incident response model. But first about me. So by day, I'm a normal InfoSec professional, much like you. I don't wear a tie to work, but just to get it out of the way, not that anyone knows where I actually work, thoughts expressed here are neither the opinions or the beliefs of my employer. But in my day job, I do work during a SOC. I wish my SOC looked this good. And actually, if you look at it, if you look at some of the pictures, it's all a giant model railroad. That's what I figured Mr. Scudis's NetWars Cyber City looks like. I also do incident response. I always wanted to be a firefighter when I grew up. Incident response, I guess, is a close second, except they have a cooler ride. By night, I'm a crazy researcher. In 2006, a friend and I decided to set up Mayhemic Labs, which was essentially a front company because we wanted to sound cool on full disclosure. Because no one's going to pay attention to two teenagers releasing vulnerabilities, but you might pay attention to a company called Mayhemic Labs. Oh. My 15 minutes of fame was locational privacy. About 2 years ago, I decided to stalk everyone on Twitter who posted a geotag photo. I did a couple of presentations, and I hope one day I come home after the conference and I find them on the front page of CNET. I do a lot of malware research. I love tearing things apart. I have since I was a kid. And I also do other things. That's not me. So background, or why we're totally screwed. I was the guy who shouted out during the keynote that we're all doomed. So just to start with a disclaimer, you really can't do this unless you're passionate. Tom Brady, and be forewarned, there's going to be a lot of football references in here. Tom Brady does not look at football as a 9-to-5 job. You need to go, you need to do your day job, and then you need to go back and you need to start, continue thinking about it after your, kid goes to bed or during your free time, and you need to continue to do research. Blitzing away is a different way to look at defense, but it's not a cure-all. Like I said, you need to start worrying about fundamentals. If you're not patching, you're still doomed. And best analogy with a blitzing defense, if your defense can't run and tackle, your blitz isn't going to be very effective. Right now, we're in a prevent defense, and now if everyone's watched football, you know what a prevent defense is, but I will enlighten you. It's when, toward the end of the game, you always see it, the defense, if the offense is, the people who have the ball, sorry, let's start using really basic terms. The people who have the ball, if they're behind, the defense will start to go fade back and attempt to break up the long pass or the big play. And according to Wikipedia, prevent defense is an American football defensive alignment, the goal of which is to prevent the offense from completing a long pass. Prevent defenses don't work. We can't prevent 100% of the time. Attackers are completely okay with doing a couple of small infections and then pivoting off. They don't really care about getting the big play on the first try. And occasionally the prevent defense will still give up the big play. RSA, Komodo, Bit9s, the Broncos versus the Ravens. Glad someone watched that game. We're giving up yardage to burn time, and we don't really have a clock to run out. So the incident response model, I use the SANS ones here. It's actually from a paper that I picked up online that you can read from the SANS reading rooms from Patrick Krall, the Incident Handler's Handbook. It was written in 2011. But anyone who has their GCIH knows, preparation, identification, containment, eradication, recovery, and lessons learned. Those are the 6 phases of an incident. I'm suggesting some changes, kind of. Incident response model is more geared towards single discrete events. A virus outbreak, a single infection from a script kiddie, a website defacement. Once the fire's out, it's kind of business as usual. So it's good for handling viruses, isolated, compromised, and casual attackers. It's less than ideal for handling a determined attacker, or the APT. And that's the only time I'm going to try to say that during this conference. The incident response model still works. Learn it, live it, love it. However, the game really has changed. You need kind of a wider awareness. Incidents may be independent, or they may be linked. So the baddies have a model too. It's called the intrusion kill chain, and it was based off of a paper, Intelligence-Driven Computer Network Defense Informed by Analysis of Adversary Campaigns and Intrusion Kill Chains. You can tell this is an academic paper, can't you? It was written by 2010 by, I believe, Lockheed Martin people. I remember reading this, and it was my coming to Jesus moment. I was like, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. Part of the paper is describing the steps of an adversary to gain access to a target network. So the intrusion kill chain is reconnaissance, weaponization, delivery, exploitation, installation, command and control, and actions on objectives. So reconnaissance, find out what your target is running or how their ports are open to the internet. Weaponization, find your exploits, or design your exploits. Delivery, find a way of getting those exploits there. Exploitation, actually executing those exploits. Installation, getting a toehold on the network. And finally, setting up your command and control, which is commanding all the bots that you actually have. And actions on objectives, which is more usually exfiltrating data or doing whatever you want to do. So the two methods actually work well together. So you have your incident response model on the bottom, go back to my bleach pointer, and your attack model on top. So when you set up your defense, you're prepared. Then then the bad guys come along. They start doing reconnaissance, weaponization, delivery, exploitation. At which point they have get a hold on your network. From there, then they start doing installation, command and control, and getting their objectives. Your part is now, once that is identified and contained, you have something called attacker free time. I believe it's also called, in certain circles, called dwell time. Once you have it contained, I refer to it as a sort of second stage called fight or flight. What they'll try to do is they'll try to extract themselves and basically do a blown op, which is burn everything, try to get off the network and erase all traces, or they will just attempt to more laterally pivot across your network, or they will just attempt a second attack. Eradication is when they're off the network, and then you go into recovery. Of course, it's never that simple. Once you get them off your network, if it's a determined attacker, you're going to start seeing it again and again and again. Then you're going to start to have more fun if they start running multiple attacks at the same times. Or this could be a second adversary, or it could just be a random thing. You need to actually start learning to piece learn how to piece that together. So we need to learn bad actors, tactics, techniques, and procedures, tie multiple incidents into one cohesive picture, feed that back into the existing incident response model, and shorten and or eliminate the attacker's free time. Okay, thank you very much. Go now, what? This is my $1 million idea. How do we do that? So the first step is to develop intelligence. They know about you, let's learn about them. Everyone was talking about intelligence. That was the big thing that my boss came back with RSA. Everyone was selling intelligence. I really wish they did this during high school. Unfortunately, most people don't know what intelligence is. I didn't know what intelligence is until I started talking to my boss, who used to do work with intelligence in the Air Force. Indicators of compromise, IP addresses, fully qualified domain names for command and control servers, MD5, SHA-1s. I always thought that was intelligence. No, it's data. Data is all going to be the stuff that you get a raw list of, from your source, or you rip apart malware and get a bunch of indicators of compromise. That means nothing unless you start doing analysis on it. So I guess a very simple way to do it is, if you look from data to intelligence, is the Star Wars model. So at the beginning of Star Wars, we have Princess Leia. She steals the plans for the Death Star. And at the end of Star Wars, we have Luke, R2-D2, Han, and Chewbacca blow up the Death Star. Now what you don't see is that data moving to intelligence, which is a bunch of Rebel Alliance analysis, drinking a lot of coffee, smoking a lot of cigarettes, and finding the exhaust source vulnerability, which I assume they probably did some type of responsible disclosure, signed it a CVE. Nice to think that. So data to intelligence is sort of an iterative process. I mean, there's easy ways to move to there's the easy steps to get some type of intelligence, and then as we start looking deeper, it becomes harder. So the easy way, and this is more or less just straight data, we have an infection on the network. What are we seeing? We're seeing, Our a computer start blipping into a command and control server in Latvia. How are we seeing it? Okay, we saw it via our firewall. We normally don't see people going. We normally don't see our computers going to Latvia. Okay, harder. What is it doing? Well, beyond it's going to Latvia, what exactly it's doing? We've established that's a command and control server, but what exactly is that command and control that it's getting? What is it after? Okay, we've started to say, look at that, it's getting command and control servers, commands from the CNC to look for SQL servers, and they're looking for SQL servers with credit card data on it. Okay, so it must probably be looking for credit card data. Why is it after that? Well, okay, probably fraud, but we never show. It could be something directly targeted against us. And the really hard question, who is behind it? Attribution is the, golden unicorn at the end of the rainbow next to the pot of gold. You're never going to find it, but maybe someday you'll be lucky. Intelligence is hard work. Actually, in this presentation, I'm going to go back and I got some new intelligence or new data that actually kind of blew one of my assumptions away in a later part of this presentation, and I'll go over that. You'll spend long days looking like a conspiracy nut. A single piece of data can literally ruin weeks' work, as demonstrated later. It needs to be an ongoing internal process. A lot of people are selling threat intelligence at RSA and all those things, and everyone's saying, oh, well, we got the best threat intelligence around. Until you actually start knowing how it affects your business or your place of work, it's not going to be very applicable. No one knows your network better than you. Threat actors will change on a regular basis. I mean, let's talk about 4 or 5 years ago, how many people expected Anonymous to be around? I didn't. But once you become proficient, it's really worth its weight in gold. So using your data. Your network is full of data. You need to start using it. Data for intelligence is being sent to you every day. Every attack is going to have some type of portion data and tells to it. Every attack, successful or not, you're going to be able to grab stuff from it. IP addresses, command and control servers, phishing themes, etc. Most attackers do not have good OPSEC. They're lazy. Use this against them. There was a great presentation, and I'm not sure what conference it's from. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his name, the Grug Q. He's on Twitter, really smart guy. It's called OPSEC for Hackers. I loved reading this presentation. It basically detailed how the FBI busted a bunch of miscreants, mostly being anonymous, just through stuff that they saw monitoring their chat room. Like, you'll see the warrant affidavit saying, oh, we know it's this person because we saw activity on their wireless LAN while this person was connected to the IRC network. And they also talked about certain things like the weather, and we were able to definitely always track it back to this certain location. So we have a pretty good idea that this is the person. And sure enough, they were right. It's kind of frightening. You need to start busting out of silos. You need to start extracting data out of your SIM, out of your IDS, out of your AV solutions, or other security devices. Learn how to script. Learn how to program. It is the best force multiplier you can ever do. If you're just a simple, I think Dildog said at a lunch today that, learn Python in 6 weeks and you'll be just as good as every Python programmer out there. I'm a shining example of that. Learn, simple Unix commands: cut, awk, sed, and grep. Those 4 commands will let you parse logs like, there's no tomorrow. And you don't need a giant fancy visualization like Splunk or anything, although it does help. But, taking certain bits of data and just pivoting off of them in different ways with shell scripting will give you great information. Start correlating and forming timelines. Did that IP address probe you this week and last week? That's odd. Maybe I should look more into that. Did it probe me before this? Is it going to probe me again? Is it going to probe for different things? Pay attention to attacks, methods, and start looking for patterns. Humans still beat computers in recognizing patterns. Unfortunately, that is a bit of a double-edged sword because we often see patterns that aren't there. Jesus and a side of toast. Jesus, he has things to do. I don't think he's going to show up in a side of toast. So we have 5 different attacks. We have attack number 1, which was an email attack, phishing. Came from a source IP. It targeted a certain group of people, used a certain exploit. It had a command and control server with, abcdef.com, a certain type of random alphabet characters. Then about a week later, there was attack number 2, came in via social media, had a different source IP to it, also attacked a certain group within the organization, used a different exploit and a different command and control server that had the same characteristics as the first attack. Attack number 3, email, different IP, yet another IP. Attacked group B this time, which didn't have any type of overlap between group A. Used the same CVE as attack number 2, the same exploit as attack number 2, and had the same type of command and control server. Attack number 4 came in with email, had a 4-source IP, attacked various targets, had a different CVE, had a different vulnerability to it, and went to puppy.com. Attack number 5 was sort of a watering hole attack, had the same attack as attack number 4, various targets, various exploits, and had the same command and control server as command and control number 1. So, is it 5 different attacks or 1 persistent attack? This is sort of a similar example to what was in that Lockheed Martin paper. They actually did this across 3 different attacks on the network, and they were able to come to the conclusion that it was a single attacker. So, we see between attack number 1 and attack number 2, group A, attack number 2 and attack number 3, they moved from group A to group B with the same exploit, so they must have exhausted all the attack within group A. Between attack number 1 and attack number 5, they have the same command and control server. So is a single adversary, possibly. Attack number 4, it has some similarities. It had a different type of command and control server domain name to it. However, it did come from the source IP. Is it attacker A, attacker B, or is it something else? We don't know. And as long as you're comfortable, you need to be comfortable with saying, I don't know, because you're never going to know all the answers when you start piling across this data. So, gathering data. Attackers will send you a bunch of data, but you actually should start going out and looking for it. Embrace being the nosy neighbor on the internet. Internet relay chat. Certain groups still love to hang out in internet relay chat. The biggest caveat when you're going out and gathering intelligence or gathering data, do not ever connect from anything that can be traced back to you. Use Tor, use a VPN service, never ever use your corporate network. I had a friend, an acquaintance, I guess you could say. He set up a honeypot. He was sharing it with a bunch of people who were rather clueful, and he thought they were clueful. I was one of them. And we were talking about it a couple of weeks after he released this data that was basically a honeypotted website. He said, hey, don't connect to this, guys. Here's how I'm doing this research. This website is compromised and is currently being used by the bad guys for serving up exploits. He reported that approximately 3 people connected from their corporate IP space on their corporate laptops, one of which was running Windows XP Service Pack 2. Can't buy common sense. So groups and bad actors love privacy. Embrace it, but don't tempt fate by connecting it to something that can be traced back to you. Due to the nature of IRC, the groups can be harder to infiltrate. You have a chat room connected with 5 people. All of a sudden, the 6th person shows up that they have no idea who it is. They're going to start asking questions, sometimes in a language you can't understand. The smaller the group, the more trusted it is. It's going to be harder to infiltrate. You're going to have to know someone from the outside to start bridging trust. A lot of the spy novel stuff that you actually do see on USA Network and all that stuff, it actually does have some basis in real life. You're going to have to be vouched for within the small group before they can trust you. Social media. Certain groups love to discuss their exploits on social media. Often these groups use it as advertising. Find out who's talking about you, your company, your domain name, your host names, and why. Then find out who's talking to them and why. And then you'll start actually showing up a pattern, a chart of relationships. Social media makes it much easier to monitor people than IRC, because mostly with social media, and a lot of these people, when these people use websites and social media to advertise, they want it to be public. They want to get that exposure. So it's a lot easier to be a fly on the wall when they're posting everything to Twitter on a public account rather than posting everything in an IRC room with 5 people in it. Pastebin. Pastebin is a wretched hive of scum and villainy. and therefore a great source for data. Groups will often post dumps of stolen data for easy access among groups of miscreants. Look for yours. They have a public search. They also have a subscription service that will alert when posts are made with certain keywords. I believe it's a very small, I think it's like $5 a month. Unfortunately, you're only limited to 5 keywords. It is very easy to roll your own monitoring system. So a friend and I, he took the initiative and actually built one. And I'm tempting demo gods by attempting to connect to it. I took it up and built the front end, which was, oh my goodness, I did not expect that to happen. Let's try that again so you guys can actually see it. There we go. So this is all the URLs that are currently being posted publicly on Pastebin right now. I have about 4 servers that analyze the data in order to spread the load so they're not banned. And I'm going to apologize if anything naughty shows up, because when I thought this, I thought it would be a great source for intel with the URLs. However, unfortunately, most of the links you'll see are for where's porn and MP3s. It is very trivial to set one up for yourself. It's actually, I'm going to actually make a post on the weblog link at the end for where you can get the basic script that we use. We sort of tweaked it out a little bit, and it's not fully tested, so I'm not publicly releasing it. But it's still pretty good. You can start running it across multiple servers and get wrap data and start looking for stuff that may be of interest to you. Your domain names, your host names, your personal name. Google Alerts. Google knows everything about everyone. You should leverage this to your advantage. It does have a pretty high false positive rate, especially if you start looking for your own company. Because every time your company is in the news, if you're a publicly traded company, you're going to get an alert. That certainly is a lot of alerts if you're any type of public relations, if you have any public relations, which most companies do. So things to look for: your company name, your company Twitter handles, any hashtags your company may use, any type of mention of your company within a hashtag, like your company sucks. Domain names, IP addresses. If you have a subnet, I have a script that monitors for any type of IP address within my subnet. Email addresses, names of company leadership, and terms that the people you are monitoring, back to when you actually started looking at them in social media, what are they talking about? Start looking for other people talking about them. So we can go deep undercover now. This is very difficult. Interacting with bad actors is very dangerous, especially if they find out who you are. It's also kind of on shaky legal ground as well. Did anyone read Kingpin, which is the book by, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, Polson, thank you. I knew it was Kevin something. The FBI had a very interesting procedure with talking, if you're talking to people who do bad things, you're allowed 3 contacts before you actually have to run it up to FBI management. I don't know exactly what their procedure is. I find that to be very interesting, and I think that's a very good idea, because you talking to someone and developing a relationship with them, if you're in the Boston area, Whitey Bulger, enough said. If you start getting friendly with your informant, bad thing could happen. Sometimes, again, you will just attract attention being a fly on the wall. If you're in that IRC room with 5 people and you're that 6th person, they're going to start wondering who you are. Developing a believable legend for your persona is necessary. And you need to start doing this. If you want to start doing this in 6 months, you need to start doing it now with developing this persona. Start going around and start acting like this person before you actually start interacting with people. The old adage is, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When is the best time to start an identity? 6 months ago. Need an identity? Namegenerator.in. They will generate identities up the, you can do namegenerator.in and I believe /Massachusetts, and it will generate a Massachusetts identity for you with a valid phone number, a valid address, and a valid, I believe a social security number as well, valid. Cover identities cannot be created, they can only be grown again. Account set up last week will look suspicious. So tending a garden takes time and effort. I always look at it as, you need to have your garden of identities, you need to start tending to them, you need to start planting them again. 6 months ago, a year ago, that would be even more believable. A couple years ago, I think it'll pass muster by most people, by most type of basic Google searches. You should always have multiple identities good to go. So if one of them gets blown, you can start working on your next one. Of course, then you start running suspicious where, hey, we've been infiltrated by person X, and we don't know, while we don't know who it is, we know that that identity was bad. We shoot away person X, and then person Y comes along. It's going to look kind of suspicious. So, quick tips for believability. LinkedIn. If you're going to set up, everyone loves LinkedIn for their corporate identity. Research colleges, research majors, research student life. I have a identity, had, because I started to feel it was getting a little too well used. I set it up with a college, and that college had a sorority, because that identity was a woman. Don't take that much into that. I'm going to apologize for the women in the audience. There are people out there. You're dealing with a bunch of men, usually, in the computer crime circles, and if they start seeing a woman personality, they're going to start trying to impress her. I'm just going to leave it at that. So the college that this persona went to had a sorority in it that was not affiliated with any national organization. It also had a very crummy website, and it did not have any type of background on people who had attended that sorority, publicly available. So my identity went to that sorority. So if someone starts Googling for that identity going to that sorority, they will see that that sorority exists in that college. So they won't see anyone went to that sorority because they won't be able to Google it. However, they will be able to also see that sorority was suspended for a drinking incident in 2005, I think it was. Facebook, find friends, create pictures, create events, start looking like a regular Facebook user. There's a big thing on catfishing. That was a new thing on it. There was a documentary put out. Also, MTV does a new mini-series or some type of show on it. They like to go under these people who impersonate people and try to scam victims. I learned a lot from watching that show. Basically, don't make the mistakes that these people do. One of the best things that they always do is they do Google image search and they try to look for the person's avatar. One of the things that I always try to do is a lot of people have, when you start making friends with people on Facebook, and Facebook will always put up a link on your side for your fake identity, like, do you know these people? Yes, I do. Add friend, add friend, add friend. You will have people who reject you. A lot of people will just say, oh, okay, sure, they know me, so I must know them from somewhere, except. From there, once you start developing your persona and you start getting friends, you'll start having friends of friends. A lot of people out there on Facebook have their photo set and their private photo set to be friends of friends. You can start using these photos as your avatar. If you start setting it up with a blank avatar and you start running into, and you start getting friends, you can take possibly one of their friends, defriend that person so they don't actually trace it back to you and you're using their photo. Not ethical. I've seen people do it. I feel kind of slimy when people start talking about it. Twitter. Always tweet an appropriate schedule. A college student in LA is not going to be tweeting 9 to 5 during your day job. There are a lot of scripts out there that will set up tweets on a schedule. I believe Hootsuite will do this. Andy Ellis this morning was tweeting during his keynote, which I found very impressive because he didn't touch his phone once. I always assumed it was either Hootsuite or the Penguin. And as much as you might want to, never ever cross-contaminate accounts. So you have all these fake identities. Oh, here's a simple way to get a lot of friends. I'll make them all friends of each other. Unfortunately, if one of those identities is now blown, all those identities are now blown. Early warning. So cover identities are not just for James Bond type stuff where they're trying to break into the evil cybercrime syndicate. Creating fake employees can give you an early warning into interest in your company, both legitimate, like sales, and illegitimate, like bad actors. You should really start looking into setting up fake work identities and see who pokes at them. Talk with your company legal office before doing this. They often freak out. So now you start having all this information. Let's start sharing it. Don't be a hoarder. Don't be on cyber information hoarders. And I'm going to be on an A&E series soon. They keep on not returning my phone calls. Knowing as much as you can during an incident is key. I think everyone who's done insurance bonds knows that. Sharing with peers can often make a very big difference. Time to detection, situational awareness, and whether or not if you got a strange type of email from a person that you've never seen before saying, please click this link, is it targeted against you? Is it targeted against your company? Or is it targeted against everyone and you just seem to be the one person who got it within your company? Sharing, a lot of people, especially in the federal government, means often think that sharing of, oh yeah, please give me your data. Sharing means giving and receiving. So you're not going to be able to make friends very easily if you're just taking their data. You should also generate some data for yourself and share it with the people that you know. Always produce and consume. So unorganized informal communities, let's talk about where you can actually share this data. Never underestimate the power of networking. Introverted geeks like myself, this means you. There are numerous communities in the local Boston area. BeanSec, I think they just had one last night. GraniteSec, Mass Hackers. I believe we're actually having Beacon and hopefully see you there because I'm going to give a similar presentation. Local chapters of national organizations, ISSA, ISACA. Start doing professional networking. Oh, sorry, I'm going to talk about you in a minute. Start doing professional networking. Become comfortable with those people. Start developing relationships. Every so often reach out saying, hey, I just saw this weird thing happen on my network. Did you see it? That'll start budding into an actual relationship and they might start seeing, they might start sharing information with you. There's organized informal communities, closed communities that are often designed to share, that are designed to share information. Mostly these are mailing lists. I've seen a couple of them that have forums and such. These are a bit more, when you use forums, a little more of a security concern. Unfortunately, it's mostly don't call us, we'll call you. Networking is also going to be great for this. If you start getting a reputation of a person who shares information and has, or you start convincing people you're insightful for some reason, they'll start reaching out to you and you'll actually start being able to participate in these communities. Can be great sources. It really depends widely on the community. And again, also, it can be a bear to get into. I was very lucky. I apparently impressed someone once, and they thought that I actually knew what I was talking about for some reason. And I got invited to a closed community, and I'm still developing relationships off of them. It's a great community. It's very closed, and you need to know people who know people. InfraGard. Mike will be very happy in the back. I've never run into a situation like that. Always use your best judgment. The question was, the gentleman, Mr. Corman was talking about some groups possibly developing into some type of cyber militia or citizen shoulders and possibly doing offensive actions. Personally, if I saw that happening in a community I was part of, I would quickly distance myself unless the group distanced themselves very quickly from that group or whoever was doing offensive actions. The groups I'm part of, they have very strict code of ethics. If you share information outside of the group and they trace it back to you, you are banned for life. I've seen people, unfortunately, very smart people who shared something they shouldn't have, and they got kicked off the mailing list. And I've seen people try to get into the mailing list, and they developed a bad rap, and people have said, they've had a bad reputation to them, and people said that I will not deal with this person on the mailing list. As with any type of organization or any type of community, the InfoSec community is very much based on your reputation. If you start getting a bad reputation, people aren't going to want to deal with you. Nope, did I answer your question? InfraGuard. It's a partnership between the FBI and the private sector. It's good for networking opportunities. I believe we're actually having something in June, you said it was? Yeah. It's good to get to know your fellow geeks. They have a private secure portal that I've signed into once. I'm sorry, Mike. It's down now? Okay. Yeah. You have to go through, you have to sign up, you have to sign your life away to a very large document. They have to run a background check on you, and it usually takes, I think it took me about 6 months between the time I faxed my application and the time they got back to me. And that was after bothering the local FBI agent who was in charge of that. Mike, U.S. membership only? Yeah. Sorry, Andrew. Can't have Canadians. Recently, they've actually started to release Department of Homeland Security joint indicator bulletins to members. The quality, here's my thoughts on DHS advisories of 140 characters. I received a bit of supposedly vetted intelligence from them. I got a hit off one of their IP addresses, a bunch of web activity. I thought it was some sort of nastiness. I started seeing all these computers phone into it, and I go, oh no, this is going to be a very long week. I run a whois on the IP address. It's one of the Amazon.com home pages. So big sigh of relief and then a bunch of rage. And these are the people who want to pass CISPA. ISACs, the Information Sharing and Analysis Centers. They're formal communities to set up within a specific vertical. Finance, energy, state governments, health, higher education, information technology. I was shocked how actually pervasive they become, because I remember there was like 4 when I first started looking into them. The communities within them, they vary widely between ISAC. I participated in 2. I participated in multi-state and the one that I'm participating in now. Multi-state was very much centralized. It was, you know, here we got some information from US CERT, or we got information from one of your peers. It's been anonymized, and here it is. And you occasionally get maybe an alert or 2 a week, sometimes less. The one that I'm participating in now is very much peer-based. They have a bunch of mailing lists. They encourage people to work between themselves, and they do a very good job quickly sharing information. They're usually not free. I don't know, beyond the 2 that I participated in, I don't know if any of them have a cost less, but it costs a pretty penny to get in, unfortunately. The Advanced Cybersecurity Center. It's essentially a multi-vertical ISAC. I'm not sure if anyone here participates in it. It's based up in the MITRE Corporation up in Bedford, Mass. I participated with them with my old job. It was a very smart and good group of people. They are a bit in the larval stage right now, or they were when I left about 2 years ago. They are growing. I'm very happy to see a lot of people start talking about them. They have a weekly meeting on threat intelligence evaluation, threat evaluation and information sharing. Again, not free. So active defense is the buzzword. Yeah. So we are always calling the same play. We always use the same tools. How many people here aren't running a firewall or a antivirus? That's what I thought. Most of us are always running Windows on our environment. Most of us are running Red Hat Enterprise Linux. The attackers know this, and they've adapted their methods. They're really not going to have, very quick to call up a Solaris vulnerability if, because who runs Solaris still? Defense has really stayed stagnant while offense has continued to develop new tools. There was a very smart gentleman named Josh Corman. He came up with H.D. Moore's Law. Casual attacker power grows at the rate of Metasploit, and we're not keeping up with that on the defense side. So active defense is not. It's not hacking back. Stephen Maskey, I'm going to probably horribly mispronounce his last name. He did a presentation last night about why it was a bad idea to hack back, and he was spot on with all of his observations. You're not going to be able to do attribution from your active defense. The rabbit hole always go deeper. I don't know who said it, but they were talking about if you catch someone breaking into your network, hands on the keyboard of the computer that's breaking in, and you see a stack of money next to them, chances are you still haven't found out who's breaking into your network. It's not retaliation. Never fight angry. And you also hear this thing about counter strikes and, oh, we're going to take out the command and control server. You're not going to eliminate the problem. You may start increasing attacker cost a little bit, but you're probably just going to end up maybe disconnecting some small little businesses homepage or such, and they've accidentally gotten themselves compromised because they run Joomla 1.6. So what is active defense? Active defense is delay, deception, detection, and disruption. So we want to slow them down. We want to find out. They want to make themselves ask themselves, where's the data I'm looking for? We want to find them, and we want to actually deny them access. So why active defense? Active defense is all about increasing attacker cost. The bad actors, if they're just looking for an easy win, they're going to move on to another target. Or if they're actually after you, the person who would be pulling the strings may get another hired gun. Mind games. If the bad actors start thinking that everything's a trap, they'll be overly cautious and they'll slow themselves down, increasing your ability to detect them. And quite frankly, it's an uncommonly used tactic. More people should be starting to do this. So, delay. You should be using honeypots. Now, honeypots have been around for years. The first time I heard about them was 1999, and it was a paper that was written in the early 90s by Bill Cheswick. It was a very great paper. It really solidified me on, wow, security is really cool, and got me started in the industry. But I've run honeypots. There are a lot of upkeep, and they're usually just for academic research. So when I say use honeypots, I mean use honeypots internally on your network. You should be setting up little spaces of your network, running a server that no one should be connecting to, and you should be monitoring that server. As with all honeypots, it is a double-edged sword. You need to make sure that it's always going to be not something that can be used against you. If that honeypot gets compromised and you don't know about it, you're going to be launching attacks within your own environment, or B, worse, you're going to be launching attacks against other environments. You should be possibly running additional services on underutilized servers. If you have a small server that is used for 1 day of the week, running payroll, why not put a couple extra services on there, as long as you can actually actively patch them. If the bad actors are looking for SQL servers for customer data, let's give them a couple of thousand SQL servers to look through. Deceive. You should be looking into actually trying to make your attackers grab stuff and be frustrated by it. Put interesting files on open shares. Corporate forecast 1H2014.doc. Put a web bug in there that calls back to a server not traceable to you that when someone opens this document. You may catch an internal attacker. You may catch someone externally trying to grab it. Customer dbbackup.zip. 12 gigabyte zip file with a 36-bit alphanumeric password full of dev random. Fake databases, easy way to do it. fakenamegenerator.com. It's not run by the same group that runs the namegenerator.in, but you can quickly say, please generate 50,000 names for me. And they will give you first name, last name, within certain country sets, I believe, and a bunch of external data that you can select. I'm drawing a blank on what exactly it is. So the first two steps are kind of useless unless you start detecting them. Monitor your systems that delay and deceive. Honestly, watch them every day. You need to get into this rhythm because when you're starting to have these attacker dwell times or attacker free times, these are probably going to be the systems you're going to start looking at. Establish something called motion centers. Route a few network segments. If you're running 10.0.0/8, take a couple of /24s and route them into a tar pit. That way you can actually, if someone starts scanning your entire subnet, you can start noticing when someone is connecting over to your areas that you've blackholed. Also, keep an eye on your traditional learning system as well. There's always a case where people are going to start getting caught by antivirus. They usually won't work, but sometimes they will. Disrupt. Find them and destroy them. Or, if you want, monitoring intruders can be a good source of tactic, techniques, and procedures. And it will keep your internet response staff consuming large amounts of ad assets. It's very risky, and you need to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row before you attempt that. Would you like to know more? Offensive countermeasures training. Paul Asadorian and John Strand, they've done a lot of good work on there. Pardon me. They do actually use some of my tools that I've written for it, so I do have a little bit of self-promotion. I'm promoting them. The Active Defense Harbinger distribution. It's a bootable Linux distribution with a bunch of active defense goodies. sourceforge.net/project/ADHD. So putting all this back together into an incident response model. All these techniques are useless until you start tying them together. Feeding intelligence back into an incident response loop shortens the attacker free time. So for example, around April to July 2012, there was a notable increase of malware spam alerts. Verizon, American, United Airlines, United States Postal Service, FedEx, UPS, PayPal, Facebook, giant increase from March to April. Widespread reports across the internet, so it wasn't targeted against a single individual or vertical. This is one of the examples. Oh God, we just charged your credit card and $10,000. Thanks. Click this link if you want to dispute that. I'm going to click it. A large majority of spam runs had a common thread. All had the same kind of lure. Oh, by the way, we just charged you, or you just got this package. Please download this PDF file. Similar list of targets, all using the black hole exploit kit. Similar URL structure on lures, and they were mostly pushing Zeus. There were other runs during the same time that were slightly different. The exploit kits invariably included 2 URLs during the kill chain. IP address showthread.php/t and 16 hexadecimal digits, or you could do IP address page.php p 16 hexadecimal digits. And apparently, this is going back to Tuesday's talk on the black hole exploit kit. This is the 16 hexadecimal digits. They believe is some type of license key for the cloud-based black hole exploit kit service. I actually want to go look back at my data to see if there's any type of commonalities across the different exploit kits, the exploit runs. So we looked at this and we actually started coming to a conclusion that it was a single group of bad actors behind the campaign. We adjusted our defenses to start looking for URLs with page.php and showthread.php. Now, we also had to look for hex strings, because guess what? Anyone knows what showthread.php often gets a false positive with? PHPBB, and a lot of people like to surf forums from work apparently. Once we started narrowing it down to the hexadecimal digits, the number of false positives greatly decreased. And essentially, once we started putting these detections into our intrusion detection system, we were able to start detecting malware spam runs often before they were reported by end users. And honestly, it turns out we were right. I wouldn't be talking about this if we were wrong, because it would make me look really bad. Trend Micro in July released a report called Black Hole Exploit Kit, a spam campaign, not a series of individual spam runs. They reached similar conclusions to us, and after that, the campaign really started to sputter. So the conclusions here are: you are the best tool to defend your network. I know I'm a tool. Honestly, get passionate. You really need to start loving this stuff if you're in defense. And defense, everyone starts talking about the fun of being red team and offensive stuff, and defense is just as fun. You really need to start enjoying it. Start thinking about threats and start thinking about actors. Stop being nice and start playing dirty. Your network is your home field. Everyone starts talking about home field advantage in sports. That's your network. Start laying out barbed wire, mines, and interlocking fields of fire. Start making the bad actors pay for when they can't bring them your network. Learn who's talking about you, where, and why. Also, please fill out your evaluation sheets. I got about 30 seconds for questions. The gentleman in the back.
There's quite a few very suspicious thought leaders who think they're idiots consider doing these actors. I think they're wrong, but you think they're wrong.
I'm an idiot, though, but I'll be the first one to admit that.
Why do you think there's such a allergy to adversaries?
Because they're not thinking. They're thinking more. Not to say that thought leaders are wrong, but they are thinking about more of a threat-based scenario. That server has that vulnerability, and therefore is vulnerable to that exploit. If you patch that server for that exploit, that server is no longer vulnerable, and therefore is not vulnerable to that threat. Who cares about the actor behind that? Honestly, we've been trying to do this for years, and it's not working. Let's start trying to think about something different. 3 years from now, I could be completely wrong, and I could look like a stupid idiot. Talk to my wife, I look like a stupid idiot every other day. So I'm just thinking it's time for a change. Let's go ahead and try and do it. Any other questions? Ben Jackson, I'm on Elsevier on Twitter, bbj at mayhemiclabs.com. I'd be happy to talk about this, and if you're interested in this, if you have some ideas, I'd love to work with you because this is a very greenfield opportunity, I guess you could say it is. Thank you very much.